What I'm about to share is extremely powerful. And it's something that I've waited to talk about for a long time because I haven't really had the words to be able to describe it properly. But as it has unfolded into my own life and changed things so dramatically, I now feel like I can share. I feel like it makes sense to me how this has all happened, and I'm ready to share this with people. So I'm about to share with you a method of altering your state, your mood, your external life, your relationships, money, career, hobbies, social, friendships. It has the ability to so quickly and permanently change those things that it just blows me away. If you have been someone who's been looking for ways to become happier, or ways to do what you really want to be doing in life, but you've continually come up against roadblocks, or maybe you're someone who's had an illness, you've had health problems that have been recurrent through your entire life, but you haven't been able to deal with them, no matter what you try. You've tried the medical system, you've tried the natural healing path. If you're someone who's had long-standing emotional issues, trauma issues that you can't seem to tie to any real psychological cause, or someone who suffers from chronic anxiety or depression, but there's no reason that you can understand other than a brain chemistry imbalance, and you've kind of resigned yourself to that, then this is going to change that for you if you apply this. So with that introduction, I just want to share a bit of a story about my journey with this method. And I realize this sounds very evangelical and kind of like preacher or like evangelist talk right now. And I accept that. I just want to share what this has been like for me. So if it doesn't resonate with you, that's cool. My journey with this method started about 2 years ago. And I moved to a new city for the first time. I moved to Melbourne and was looking to start my own business. And in fact, I had already started my own business. Moved to this new city and I got into advertising, online marketing, and I started doing that for other people. And then that developed and kind of grew into more business coaching. So I would coach other people on how to do that. And what ended up happening was I started to do really well with this coaching business. And I particularly was drawn to people who worked in the more intuitive side of things. I was drawn to people who worked with more natural methods of healing the body. I was drawn to work with people who were just generally more intuitive. And I really felt this strong connection to those people and the kind of work they were doing to help other people improve their lives. And what ended up happening was, in the process of working with these kinds of people and actually helping them with their businesses, I started to see the world differently. My paradigms around how the world works started to shift. And whenever a paradigm change happens in life, it's like your foundations come apart, and it can be a very shaky time. For example, if you really love someone and you think that they're the one for you and all this other stuff, and then suddenly they break up with you and tell you that they don't want to be with you, that can be an example of something that creates a paradigm shift, like your foundations just get reduced to rubble. Or maybe a family member dies. That's an example of something that can bring on a paradigm shift. It's like you start to question your whole life. Triggers an existential crisis in some cases. You might have an accident, car accident or something where you're almost killed. That causes you to question everything down to the foundational level. So for me, working with these people, these kinds of people start to influence me and make me question some of my core fundamental beliefs, which at the time revolved around believing in a God who was, of a particular persuasion, and I was very strongly invested in that way of believing and seeing the world, seeing the universe. So that kind of broke to pieces. And then I started exploring this other side of the world. I started going down the path of wanting to understand energy and healing, and the true nature of the mind, and how to have an authentic relationship with myself and with other people, how to feel that sense of love and connection with the world, with nature, with other people, and how to experience life as a fully conscious being. And I went down that path, and I ended up going all the way to the very end of that path, and realized that wasn't quite it. There was something missing. And so it was around about this time that a lot of my more buried inner conflicts started to arise, some of my deeper inner conflicts. And at that time, my whole life started falling apart. So I was going along, running a business, doing quite well, working with these different kind of people who helped me break out of an old paradigm. And my life fell apart, and all of this depression and anxiety and crazy stuff started coming up. And I moved out of the place I was living in. My business just pretty much tanked from then on in. I was just surviving for the next at least a year. All these relationship problems started coming out, and all this crazy stuff started happening in my life. And basically, it was at that time when I had started reading a book called Letting Go, which is actually the technique that I'm talking about here, which has the power to transform your life in a crazy way. It's just funny. I'm saying it with such conviction, but it's true. So I started reading this book, which was showing me for the first time in my whole life a really, really deep picture of how the mind works. And I've read a lot of books about psychology and neurology and all this other stuff, trying to understand the mind and spirituality. Spent a lot of time trying to understand the nature of the mind and how to be happy, how to learn how to be happy, how to find the way to be happy, truly happy. And this was the book that broke it down so simply for me in a way that I never could have imagined possible. So I started reading this book at that time when everything was just going nuts, and I only spent about maybe 2 weeks reading it and pulling out some of these principles and starting to apply them, and then my life just blew to pieces. And so fast forward 2 years, those next 2 years were just like constant crisis, like survival, constantly pulling myself out of holes and falling back in them. And at the end of that 2 years, my life started to get to the point where I didn't know if I could keep going. I didn't know if I could continue living in this world. Like, that's how bad it got. I felt really suicidal at times. And that's when the book reappeared in my life. Almost like magic, just came back, and I actually started reading it again and being like, wow, where has this been this whole time? And so basically, like, long story short, while I sit here and sell you the Bible, I'm not going to sell you the Bible. long story short, cracked this book open, started applying it like crazy, and my whole life just went calm, peaceful. Things started flowing naturally, easily. My financial situation really improved. My health really improved. My relationships, everything just improved, and got back to a point where, well, for the first time, everything felt in balance. Everything felt harmonious in my life, the first time. And so that's my story of what happened to me, for me, when I took these principles and applied them. So I'll just give you a quick snapshot of what this book is I'm telling you about. And in future videos, I'm going to start going through each of the chapters and talking about them, giving you like a breakdown of what they mean and how you can use them, because it's super simple stuff. This isn't asking you to believe in anything. Like, here comes that sun. This isn't asking you to, claim anything. It's not asking you to cling to any dogma. It's a simple practice that you can test and apply and actually see, does this work or doesn't it? If it works, amazing, keep using it. If it doesn't, no big deal. So here it is. The letting go principle, the whole idea, the concept, was put into a book by a guy called Dr. David Hawkins. Basically, David Hawkins was a psychotherapist whose, the bulk of his career was towards the end of the 20th century. And he came across some principles about how the mind works that allowed him to get extraordinary results for his clients and for himself. Basically, what he realized was that our minds our thinking, rational minds, our picture-forming, thought-forming minds are actually built on a foundation of emotions. And then below the emotions is a state of pure beingness. I guess you could kind of think of it like the state that a baby's in, kind of just this pure being state. They're not really doing, they're not really focusing on having, they're not really personalities as such, they're just in this pure being state. And so that's kind of like the layers of the mind. You've got the pure beingness, emotional states, and thinking, thought-forming mind here at the top. And so our 21st century model of how the mind works is actually built on outdated paradigms, outdated ideas. And we kind of look at the brain as a machine which just operates in a very mechanical way. If the balance of chemicals isn't just right, then the machine won't work properly, resulting in something like depression. But this book goes further and it talks about the emotional nature, the emotional layer that sits a bit deeper. And basically, everything we experience in life is a direct reflection of those emotions that we're holding in, that we're holding inside of us. And we hold emotions in or even express them destructively in ways that actually hurt us for many different reasons. But if we're able to let go of the emotions, it's almost like all of the stuff that happens up here, the mental chatter, the negative thinking, the critical thoughts, judgmental, pain and suffering, judging your own life, judging other people's, this will automatically be clear because the fuel, like the rocket fuel that drives this, will be clear. And all that's left is this pure state of beingness that runs throughout your entire psyche, your entire experience. So it's about becoming a person who is being and not driven by the racing thoughts and the intense negative emotions. Now, I don't include with this happiness and love. I don't really call them, and it's kind of referred this way in the book, that states of love, bliss, peace, ecstasy, joy, they're not so much emotions, they're more being states that are always there underneath all of the emotions, like shame, fear, anger, hurt, resentment, all these different things. So the book actually shows you a method to clear this pathway so that you can be happy. And not just so that you can be happy as a meditating monk, but be happy as a highly functioning member of whatever society or non-society you choose to live in. That's the beauty of it. So it's not talking about going off and meditating indefinitely, which is previously kind of how I thought I had to be if I wanted to find true happiness in life. And it's a path that a lot of people take and it can work, but this was even more direct for me. So that's an introduction. I'm going to go deeper into this stuff in future videos, but the basic principle of it, and I'll leave you with this so that if you're interested in getting this book, you go and do it after this. The basic principle is when we allow ourselves to feel the underlying emotions that are driving all of our thoughts, all our decisions that we make, all of the activities we do, when we allow those emotions to become unblocked and we don't hold on to them, particularly those heavier emotions like guilt, shame, fear, anger, resentment towards other people and life itself, when we let go of all of that stuff, our whole body and mind is free to function properly. Disease spontaneously vanishes. Our financial situation stabilizes. Our health, our relationships, everything just starts to fall together very naturally when we kind of get all this junk out of the way. So, I'll leave you with that. I encourage you to check this book. It's called Letting Go by David Hawkins, The Pathway of Surrender. You can get it on Amazon for like $20. And if you're ready to go on this journey of letting go of junk, letting go of self-sabotage, and finding the happiness that's inside you and actually letting that out and finding the true love that's inside of you and letting that out, then I encourage you to come on this journey with me. It's going to be cool. This is how I now function as a coach, which is my business that I do. I actually use this method in my coaching with other people. I use it in my own life, and I can attest to its power and its effectiveness for anyone. So I hope you got some value out of that video. It's cool to share again. I'm going to be making more regular videos now, and I'll talk to you again soon.